Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Tyler, and today's video is entitled How to Attract Anyone Using MBTI. So I think this is one of the really good reasons to learn about MBTI, learn the concepts, because besides knowing more about yourself and why you act the way you act, you can also learn about other people and understand why they act the way they act. This is something that people who don't know about MBTI can really struggle with, trying to understand why they are so different, trying to understand the actions that people take and why they take them. But at the end of the day, it really just comes down to your cognitive functions, how you're built, among other things. But also, if you know another person's MBTI type, you really have a lot of information about them. You can understand behaviors that they respond to, behaviors that they don't respond to, and you can really use this information to better your relationships. Let's be honest, guys, as INTPs, we're not really the best socially. We don't have the gift of, let's say, an FE dominant. But what we can do is use our TI hero to use this information, improve our lives, improve our social skills. And that's the reason why I think today's video can be very helpful for you. I do cover a lot of information today, so I will leave timestamps in the description if you kind of want to skip around. I'm not sure how long this video will be. I'm just starting recording now, but I'm going to assume it's going to be on the longer side. But anyway, with that in mind, let's get into it. How to attract anyone using your MBTI. So the first things first, guys, if this is the very first video you've ever watched about MBTI, you're in the wrong place. You really need to have a good understanding of MBTI and the concepts before you can really apply this information. I cover a lot of this information in my other videos, especially about INTPs, but you can use other resources as well. There's other YouTubers that cover this topic in a more broader sense where I focus more on INTPs. But I would really encourage you to learn more about MBTI before watching this video. So some of the things you need to have a good understanding about is cognitive functions, like I mentioned, TI, TE, SE, SI, what do all those mean? The cognitive functions of other MBTI types. So if you find out what a person is, you're going to have to know their cognitive functions to be able to apply this information. You also need to understand how cognitive functions behave based on their place in the cognitive functions stack. So if somebody has TI hero versus TI trickster, what does that really mean? How is that person going to use TI in that sense? And then obviously you're going to have to know how to type people. If you don't know a person's MBTI type, there's no way you're going to be able to apply this information. And you might ask, how do you type people? But I can't really explain how I do it. I just have engulfed myself in this information so I can kind of see behaviors that really pertain to a certain MBTI type or not. And once you learn more about this stuff, it really becomes easier and easier. So I don't really have a good explanation for that. There is other videos about this if you want to learn more about that. That might be a video I can make sometime in the future. But anyway, these are some basic things you need to know about before you try to apply any of the information in this video. Alright, so my first topic here, this is really the basis of how to attract anyone, knowing their MBTI type, and that is cognitive synchronicity. So according to the theory, the extroverted function tries to consume the corresponding introverted function to put it into the real world. So for example, INTPs with TI hero, TE users or high TE users are going to try to consume that TI to put it into the world, to make it an extroverted thing. Also, in a sense, our NE parent, which is our second best function, tries to find a high NI person where we can feed them ideas because we're not really always sure of the one true path, or NI. So somebody with a high NI, we can consume that with our NE parent and think of all the different possibilities, all the different ways to apply this information into the real world. So here we go, TE tries to consume TI, FE really tries to consume that FI to better understand the ethics, better understand how to create social harmony among everybody. Like I mentioned, the NE tries to consume the NI, and SE, the crazy, dangerous cognitive function, tries to consume the calmer, safety-focused SI. So as you can imagine, somebody with, let's say, a high TE, if somebody has TI Trickster or TI Demon, they're not going to have anything to consume. The TI is really going to be lacking in that person. So this may make a relationship more difficult, not having anything to consume for that cognitive function, so to speak. So this is really the basis for attracting a person based on their MBTI cognitive function stack. If you have somebody that has a high FE, you're going to want to try to emulate FI, or having a high FI. If somebody has a high NI, for example, you're going to try to emulate NE. Letting them make decisions, letting them decide what's going to happen, and then having us, apply that to the real world. And I will explain this more as we go along. So if you have a person's MBTI type, you also know their cognitive function stack. Like I said, knowing their cognitive function stack, you really have a lot of information about a person. You can understand what kind of behaviors they will appreciate, which ones they will not care about or they will not appreciate. This is why knowing this sort of stuff can really improve your relationships. Or even if you're just trying to attract a person, romantically, or in a business deal, you can know how to act. You can know what they're looking for in another person. And that's why this information is so useful. So basically the goal of all of this is to emulate a particular MBTI type that matches their perfect match. So a perfect match basically is where everything lines up across the line there. For example, in INTP, somebody has TE hero. For our NE parent, somebody has NI parent. Our SI child, somebody has SE child. Everything lines up perfectly. And this is what is considered somebody's perfect match. So knowing their MBTI type, you're going to know the other MBTI type that is their perfect match, quote unquote. And you can try your best to act this way or emulate their behavior, making the other person respond to you in a more positive manner. Knowing this information also lets you know what to never engage. As I'm going to explain later, you never want to engage the trickster or the demon function. You might get a blank stare, you might get confusion. These are things that are really low on their stack, really low developed, and you never want to try to engage these functions. And also knowing this information, you know what their inferior function is. If you really upset another person's inferior function, you make them activate the demon function. And as I discussed in my video on FI demon for INTPs, you never want to open up somebody's demon function because they will enter their superego and be their worst self. They will become vengeful. They will become parasitic. So as I'll discuss later, you really need to be careful with that inferior function and make sure you're not upsetting it. I want to discuss a little bit more about perfect matches on this slide. So like I already said, each type has a corresponding perfect match that matches up directly with their cognitive functions. And this is the best match, to be honest. These are matches that are believed to be the best for relationships. That could be business, that could be romance, that could be friendship, anything. In the case of the perfect match, every single function is getting what it needs. Every function that doesn't need anything is not getting anything. It just, in theory anyway, works perfectly. So for example, the INTP, what is our perfect match? Our perfect match is the ENTJ. And this does seem to be very true when I'm around ENTJs, and they're very rare, so it's not very often, but they really honestly just amaze me. If there was any way I could switch MBTI types, there aren't very many that I would switch to, but I would honestly switch to an ENTJ. They're just really impressive to me, and they're very successful in life usually. Well, anyway, that's kind of off topic. So, as you can see here, our TI hero matches up perfectly with our TE hero. Our NE parent matches up with our NI parent. SI with SE, FE with FI. And even if you go into the unconscious, the Nemesis, Trickster, all those match up as well. So all the functions that want to be engaged, that we use normally, are being engaged. All the ones that we don't have any idea about are not being engaged, and that's a good thing. And that's why if you're trying to really attract somebody, you want to act like they're a perfect match. Now this can be very difficult. I'm going to be honest, it's not going to be easy. And there are ways around it, like I'll discuss later. But you really want to try to act like their best type. So if somebody's perfect match is an ENTP, you want to try to act more like an ENTP, or at least match some of their behaviors. So anyway, if you're dealing with your perfect match, there really isn't too much to do. It's going to be very easy to attract them. It's going to be very easy to build a relationship. As long as you're dealing with two healthy MBTI types, there's really honestly nothing better. So if you find somebody that is your perfect match, try to have a relationship with them. Try to keep them around in your life. It's really going to be a mutually beneficial relationship. So if you find one, congratulations. Just be yourself. You'll be fine. So what about for those non-perfect matches? Like I said, as INTPs, our perfect match is an ENTJ. ENTJs are very, very rare. I believe they're either the second or third most rare type there is out there. So we really aren't blessed with having our perfect match around us all the time. But that's okay. There's ways around this. There's ways to attract people that are not your perfect match. As I've been discussing, if you're trying to attract somebody that is not your perfect match, you're going to have to act a little bit different. You may have to show cognitive functions that are not high on your stack. You may have to hide certain cognitive functions. And if it's somebody that's way off, not even close to your type or your perfect match, it may not even be worth it, honestly. So here's the top 4 functions and what can really happen if you engage them. So the hero function, this is our top function. If you find somebody that matches that, it's really going to build trust between you. The hero function is what you're best at. It's what you use most often. So if you can find somebody that matches that, it's going to have a good possibility for a longer term relationship. Somebody maybe that you can get into a romantic relationship with. So for example, with this, ENTJs have TE hero and so do the ESTJs. So while an ESTJ might not be your perfect match, it may be somebody that you could possibly build a relationship just because your top functions match up perfectly. The parent function, if you can engage somebody's parent function, they're going to respect you more. Something I haven't really talked about in MBTI is that the 4 top functions have a positive connotation or a negative connotation. The hero and child function are positive, while the parent and inferior are negative connotations. So if you can satisfy somebody's parent, the top function that has a negative connotation, it's really going to make them respect you more. They might have a high opinion of you. And if you can get that parent function, it's also going to bring along the child, and we're going to discuss that more. But anyway, the child function, this is really the first thing you want to focus on because this is where attraction builds. The child function is something that we really love to do. We really love to be engaged. If you first meet somebody and they are satisfying your child function, you're going to want to learn more about that person or at least try to keep them around for a minute. The child function is really the gateway to start a relationship with somebody if you want to do so. Then the inferior function, if you can satisfy this, that's also good. They're going to want to invest in you more possibly. The inferior function is what we are worried about, where our insecurities lie. So if we got somebody that's making us feel better about that, that's also going to be a good thing. And like I said, the inferior function also has a negative connotation. So if you can get past the negatives of the person, the parent and the inferior, you're going to bring along the more positive ones of the hero and the child. And we'll talk about that more on a later slide. So this slide here, my next topic here, is engaging the child function will build attraction. This is, in my opinion, where you want to start with a person. Especially if you're just meeting them for the first time, you really want to engage that child function to get them attracted to you. And maybe not so much in a romantic sense, which works perfectly for that too, but just in having the person respond to you in a positive manner. And on this slide, I'll go step by step for each cognitive function and how you want to act, knowing their child function. All right, so anyway. And the things I put here are not only for the child function, you can also use these for the top 4 functions. But if you're just meeting a person, this is what you want to start off with. So let's say somebody has TI child. They're going to have a positive, childlike sense of their introverted thinking. So what can you do to attract them? What you want to do is try to appreciate their intellect. You want to try to emulate TE, asking them questions, asking them what they think about a certain thing. You want to try to put their thoughts into action, TE. You want to do little things for them. Maybe get them some food, clean the house a little bit, They're going to be wanting to focus more on their TI, so if you do some TE stuff, they will appreciate that. TE, this is the opposite, just having TI child or even a higher TI. You want to be smart or knowing a skill. You want to be competent. This is really going to be attractive to them. This is why ENFPs and to a much lesser extent, ESFPs can be attracted to INTPs because they have this TE child. So your intellect can appear very attractive to them because it satisfies this child function. Somebody has SI child, this is what we have. You want to do your best to make them comfortable. INTPs and also INFPs love to be comfortable. And I have a whole separate video about SI child, why that holds you back, always trying to be comfy. But that's something that we really enjoy and that you honestly have to do sometimes as an INTP. You have to have your downtime. You have to have your days where you just do nothing. You want to somewhat keep that SI engaged. But it's not all about comfort. It's also about taking in a good experience. So if you have somebody with SI child, you want to give them a good experience. You may disagree with me, but INTPs love taking in the good experience of somebody dressing really well, looking at the beautiful woman or the beautiful man. We can really appreciate this because of our SI child. So that is a couple ways you can satisfy that. SE child. SE is more concerned about giving the good experience, not taking it in. So what can you do with this? You want to emulate SI child. You want to appreciate the experience that they are giving to you. So SE child, this would be the ENTJs, which is our perfect match, and also the ENFJs. Maybe you see somebody at the club or out and about, and they are looking really good, and you think they might be an ENTJ or an ENFJ. If you want to attract them, all you have to do is stare at them. Show them that you are appreciating what they're giving off. And then when they come up to you or you go to them, they're going to be like, why are you staring at me? You're just going to be like, because you're the most beautiful woman in this place. You look so good. And while some people may not appreciate that, people with SE child will really appreciate that because they're trying to give off that good experience. And you enjoying that is really going to make them feel good. Somebody has NI child, they're really trying to chase this shiny thing. They love making their own decisions. So you want to make sure that they know that they can make decisions. You can feed them ideas that they can choose from. This would be emulating NE. NE child, this is very easy. Just tell them what you want. Never ask them what they want because they have no idea. What you got to realize is somebody's child function, the corresponding other function, so in this case NE, the NI is going to be their trickster function. So somebody with NE child is going to have no idea what they want. So instead of asking them, you tell them what you want and they're going to help you make that happen. So if you're dealing with somebody with NE child, this can be very easy. Just tell them what you want. If somebody has FE child, you really want to appreciate how good they are with people. You want to tell them how you are personally feeling. You don't want to ask how they're feeling because they have that FI trickster. As an example, ESTPs, very hardcore people, danger-seeking people. They're somewhat crazy, but they do have this soft spot of FE child. So if you want to appeal to them, you want to try to let them know, hey, I appreciate how good you are with people. I feel like you really care about others' feelings. And finally, FI child, basically you want to make them feel good. You want to make them feel like they are a good person, that they are a person of high moral character. Whether that's true or not, it doesn't matter. If they have FI child, they have a childlike sense of how they are feeling. You don't want to tell them your feelings because they don't care. But you want to try to emulate FE, which is all about social harmony, making everybody feel good. This is how you can attract somebody with FI child. Alright, so once you get the child function engaged, you got to start thinking about your next steps. Engaging the child function will really only get you so far. You have to be concerned with the other cognitive functions as well and satisfying them. So after you get that child function engaged, what do you do after that? So like I said, it's not enough just to engage the child function. You have to really engage the other ones as well. So after you get the child function on board, you need to start worrying about your other cognitive functions to continue building that relationship. And this may be a difficult task, to be honest. It's really hard to emulate a hero function if it's really low on your stack. As far as a child function, that's not too hard to satisfy, even if it is low. It's pretty easy to emulate a child function when compared to the parent or hero. So the INTP, for example, we have SE Trickster and FI Demon. So while we can maybe fake this a little bit enough for the child function, it's going to be very difficult to fake it as a hero function. However, there are ways around this, as I'll explain here in a minute. Really, all you need to do is to get at least 2 of the functions on board. And I'll explain this more on the next slide. If you're having an issue emulating a certain function, you're going to have to learn to emulate the other that's going to get them on board. And this is the basis for the cognitive axis that we'll talk about here on the next slide. So the cognitive axis, I've never covered this on my channel before. What is this exactly? So according to the theory, certain cognitive functions are linked via an axis to another cognitive function. And you will notice these are linked via the hero and the inferior function, and also the parent and child function. So what functions are linked? So first we have TI and FE. These are linked via an axis. TE and FI, NI and SE, and then also SI and NE. So while these are 2 different cognitive functions, they are linked. So something that affects one function is going to affect the other one, and vice versa. This is what I was talking about a little bit earlier as far as, getting the child function on board if you get the parent, and also getting the inferior function on board if you get the hero. But these can also be flipped. If you're really getting the child on board, you're also going to satisfy the parent, and if you're really getting the hero involved, you're going to satisfy the inferior function. So like I already said, this corresponds to the hero and inferior functions being linked via this axis, and also the parent and child functions are linked as well. So in this way you have a positive cognitive function always linked with a negative cognitive function in the connotation sense. Like I said, the hero is positive, the parent is negative, the child is positive, and then the inferior is negative. So what does all this mean exactly? Like I said on the last slide, you really only have to satisfy 2 of the functions in the top 4 of the stack. So let's say, for example, somebody has NI and SE in their top 4 functions. You really just need to satisfy one of those. You don't have to necessarily satisfy both. I mean, it's a good thing if you can get both on board, but it's not absolutely necessary. So if you're having trouble emulating a certain cognitive function, for example, like I said, FI or SE, you can get around this by satisfying the other function that's linked to it in the cognitive axis. And I will show you some examples here on the next slide. So like I've been saying, the INTP, the hero and the inferior function is linked via an axis. And also the NE and SI is also linked. So let's say you're doing a really good job, you're trying to get an INTP to like you. If you're really satisfying this NE, letting them know what you want, emulating NI, you're going to automatically get the child on board. This is a little bit easier way to get the axis on board is by attacking the negative connotation cognitive function. But on the other hand, if you can really get the child involved, if you're really, attracting that child function, the parent may overlook this as well, if you're not necessarily satisfying it. And in that same sense, if you're satisfying the TI hero, really emulating TE very well, you're automatically going to get the inferior function on board, or vice versa. If you're really making the person feel good about their inferior function, for example, you're telling the INTP, you're pretty good with people. I can tell you really have a sense for how others are feeling. I really appreciate the things you do for people. You're going to be like, wow, this function may not be as bad as I thought it was. Maybe this person's really good for me. I'm going to get that TI on board and actually try to help them solve their problems. So like I've been saying, you really just need to get one on board. You have to either get the hero or the inferior, or you have to get the parent or the child, because they are linked. What affects one will affect the other. Another example here, ESTP. They got SE hero, TI parent, child is FE, and fear is NI. So if you can get the TI on board, doing things for them, emulating TE, asking their opinion on things, they're automatically going to try to make you feel good with their FE child. Or if you give them some good feelings, if you make them feel like they're really good with people, emulating FI, telling them your feelings, not asking about their feelings, they're automatically going to get that TI parent on board. If you can make their inferior function, which is a negative connotation, feel good, telling them with this inferior NI. If you're trying to make an ESTP uncomfortable, ask them where they see themselves in 5 years. They're really insecure about their NI or what they want out of life. So saying, hey, I really respect all your decisions. I think you make good decisions. Here's some ideas I've come up with. What do you think is the best answer? This is going to satisfy their NI. Automatically getting that crazy SE hero on board, crazy in the moment. And knowing the axes can also help you kind of formulate your sentences. So for example, the INTP could say, I think, don't be using I feel statements, say, I think you are good with people. You can also use that same example for the ESTP with the parent and child. I think you are good with people. I really appreciate the experience that you're giving me. You're really making me comfortable. I really appreciate that. You're really good at making decisions. So that may not be the best example, but you can kind of get the idea. One of these is going to affect the other. Hero, inferior, parent, child. These are linked. So in summary, all you have to do is get one on board and you're going to get the other one automatically. Alright, so with all that being said, now we're going to move on to other considerations in attracting people. So like I mentioned earlier, you want to be very, very careful with that inferior function. This is where people's insecurities lie. They do not think they're good at this, and they know that. As compared to the trickster function, where you don't even think about it. It's not even on your radar, your trickster function or your demon function. But you're very aware of that inferior function, and you're very aware that you're not very good at it. You are insecure about that. And if you accidentally upset this inferior function by letting them know, yeah, you are really bad at that. Yeah, that's causing issues for me. That's causing issues for other people. For example, the INTP, if you're really pointing out how they're not doing good socially, you're making fun of them in front of people they respect, that's going to make them feel very badly. And you may possibly activate the demon mode, where they can slip into their superego, which is, like I said, when the person is at their absolute worst. If you activate somebody's demon function, they are not going to like you, and they are going to try to possibly harm you in some way. So always keep that inferior function in the back of your mind, and do your best to make them feel good about this. And if you can help them really get over their inferior function, you can make them slip into the subconscious side of their mind, which is when a person is really at their best, when they're doing things that they really enjoy doing. As I mentioned in my INTP Can Be the Sage video, the subconscious of the INTP is an ESFJ. So deep down as an INTP, you actually want to make people feel good. You want to be really good with people. And if somebody's really making you feel good about yourself, letting you know how good you are with them, how you're making everybody feel good, everybody likes to be around you, you can slip into that and really start living the life that you truly deep down want to live. So as far as the presentation so far, it's all been about the top 4 functions, but you also got to remember the bottom 4 functions as well, which is in the unconscious. In general, you want to try to stay away from these functions. These functions are not something you want to try to engage. And if you try to engage these functions, you're going to be met with very little success in trying to get them to like you, trying to form a relationship, whatever. So on these next slides here, I'm going to try to discuss all the bottom 4 functions and what they can mean in trying to attract somebody. So the Nemesis function, this is the 5th function in the stack. For the INTP, this would be TE. So as far as the Nemesis function, this actually is not a very weak function. According to Socionics, as far as I know, and please, if somebody knows more about it, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the Nemesis function is actually your third best function behind your hero and parent function. But even though it's not that bad, the person hates doing this. They do not enjoy using this function. So as far as the INTP is concerned with TE Nemesis, we're more concerned with just thinking. We don't really want to be putting our thoughts into actions. We want other people to do that for us. So really, you don't want to expect too much out of this function. And the person may feel like their Nemesis function is something they cannot do very well, even though they can. So knowing this, you want to try to stay away from the Nemesis. Try not to engage it, if at all possible. So like I said, I gave the example of INTPs, having TE Nemesis. We do not enjoy putting our thoughts into actions. We do not necessarily enjoy getting things done. But if we really force ourselves, if we really make ourselves use our TE, we're really not that bad, honestly, guys. So anytime you think you're not good at getting things done, you're not very good at putting your thoughts into your actions, that's not true. You just don't like doing it. So I'd really suggest to you guys to try to use your TE more. Try to get more things done. Try to develop that Nemesis function a little bit better, because it can be beneficial to your life. Next topic here, be aware of the critic function. The critic function is what the person criticizes. So knowing the person's critic function will let you know what they are naturally critical about. Are they critical about your feelings? Are they critical about their own feelings? In the case of the INTP, we have NI critic. I have a whole separate video about that if you want to watch that. The NI critic makes us criticize our own wants and desires. It makes us feel like we don't deserve the things that we really want, NI. We can be very critical of what we consider the one true path, because on the other hand, we have NE parent. We're more concerned about the different possibilities, different ways of doing things, and we are critical of the one true path. But in general, extroverted critic functions are much harder to deal with when compared to introverted functions. Introverted critic functions are directed inward, whereas the extroverted functions are directed outward. So an introverted critic function is going to make the person criticize themselves more than they're going to criticize other people. So if you're trying to attract somebody that has an extroverted critic function, you're going to have to put in a little bit more work than an introverted function. So TE, they're going to be very critical of the actions that you and other people take. They're going to be critical of the rules, the regulations. With their TI parent, they think they know better than other people. They think they know the right actions to take. So if you're dealing with somebody that has a TE critic function, they're going to criticize the things you're doing. If you try to set up rules for them, they're going to criticize that and try to break it down. So just be careful about that. SE critic, this is where people criticize the other people's experience that they are giving off. If you're dealing with somebody that has an SE critic, you better have your shoes tied. You better be looking decent. People that are SE critics are pretty shallow people, to be honest. If you come in looking bad or not having a good outfit or something like that, they're going to criticize you. They're going to look down on you. So you have to keep this in mind. If you're dealing with somebody that has SE critic, you better be looking decent. You better have your shoes tied. You better have a decent haircut, because if you don't, they will criticize you. What you'll also notice with SE critics is that they usually look pretty good themselves. They're usually trying to get in the gym. They're usually trying to have a good outfit on, because if they're criticizing other people's experiences that they're giving off, they better be giving off a good experience themselves, or that makes them a hypocrite. So just be aware of that. NE critic, this is very difficult to get around. This is what our perfect match, the ENTJ, has. Also the ENFJ. They are very critical what you are trying to get out of them. They are wondering about what your true intentions are. So be very careful with this. This could even be a situation where they push you away to see if you eventually come back. And you may have the best intentions. Let's say for a romance, maybe you really do want them to be your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. You're not just trying to use them. They're really going to be thinking, what's this person trying to get from me? Well, that's not good. Do they think I'm a fool? Do they not think I know what I want? Even if it's not true, even if you have the best intentions, like I said. So this can be very difficult to get around. This can take time. This makes it very hard for the NE critic to trust you, especially right off the bat. And finally, FE critic. The FE critic's really going to criticize other people's feelings. They really only care about what they feel. If you tell a FE critic how you're feeling about something and they disagree with you, they're going to criticize you for even feeling that. They're going to say, well, I'm really in tune with my feelings with this FI parent that I have. This person has no idea what they're talking about. Their feelings are stupid. The feelings that they have don't make any sense. So if you're dealing with an FE critic, you really need to try to understand how they feel about certain subjects, how they feel about things, because if you disagree with them, they're going to criticize you, and very likely they're not going to like you, and you're going to have a very hard time attracting them in a relationship, romance, whatever. So I only covered the extroverted critic functions here, but also knowing if they have an introverted function, you can understand what they are critical of about themselves, and you can really try to stay clear of that if at all possible. Alright, that brings me to the final two functions, the trickster or demon functions. And what you want to know about these two functions is never engage them. So as I've mentioned, the trickster and demon functions are the worst developed functions for somebody. So what do you do with this information? You make sure to not engage them for any reason. Stay away from them at all costs. If you do try to engage the trickster or demon function, you're going to be met with confusion. They're going to feel uneasy, unsure of themselves. What are you talking about? Giving you a blank stare. I have no idea what you're talking about. So you want to try to stay away from these functions. I'm going to go one by one once again to let you know what it means when somebody has this certain function as their trickster or demon. The demon function is a little bit more developed than the trickster, but it's still terrible. It's still really bad. So you want to try to stay clear of these at all costs. So if somebody has TI as one of these, they're not going to be intelligent at all, and they're not going to be able to figure things out. You can literally write your own article, copy and paste New York Times on the top of it, and they're going to believe it. They're not going to verify any information you present to them. For lack of a better term, they're just going to be pretty dumb. They're going to have to rely on others for this kind of information, people to think for them, so never ask them what they're thinking. Never ask them how. Never ask them to help you solve some kind of theoretical problem. They're just not going to have any idea. So somebody with a TI as their demon or trickster function, do not try to engage this. TE, don't be expecting them to be able to get things done. They may not be the best at picking up the house. They're not going to really know what to do with information that you give them as far as thinking. So somebody with TE at the very bottom of their stack may also not be a good idea to get in a relationship with them as an INTP, because your thoughts are basically just going to go to waste. They're not going to put any of your good thoughts into action. They're really not going to appreciate your thoughts whatsoever. So don't expect anything from TE. And they're going to have no idea what they want. You always want to tell them what you want, and they're going to be fine with that. Never ask them what they want to eat. Never ask them where they want to go on vacation. Never ask them where they see themselves in 5 years. Because you're just going to get a blank stare. They're not going to know. Always just tell them what you want, and they're going to help you make it happen. NE, trickster, or demon, they're going to have no idea about the intentions of others. They're going to be blind of what other people might be thinking of doing, what their ideas might be. So somebody with a really low NE could possibly be manipulated. All they're going to really care about is what they want, and they're not going to be sure what other people want. So they might be scammed. They may not read the fine print. So just something to be aware of if you're dealing with somebody with a low NE. FI, they're not going to have any clue how they feel about something. Never ask somebody with a low FI how they feel. This is something the INTP has as a demon, the FI. Do you guys know how you're feeling about something? Do you really care how you feel? It's just not something that's really there for us. We can see why it could be important to develop your FI, and it is better developed than our SE, but still, no clue how we're feeling. Do not ask us. We don't know. FE, these people just really don't get with the social program. They don't care about other people's feelings. This might be somebody like the INTJ. They don't care. They don't care about your social program. They don't care how they should be fitting in somewhere. All they care about is how they feel about something. Do not ever tell somebody with an FE, Trickster, or Demon how you feel about something, because they do not care. They could care less. SE, this is our Trickster, guys. We don't care about giving off a good experience. We don't care about how we're dressed. We don't care if we fix our hair, how we're looking that day. We're not going to be very good at throwing a party and entertaining everybody. But guess what? With this knowledge, you know that SE is your worst function. Try to dress better. I know you don't even think about giving off a good experience, but maybe you should. Try to fix your hair. Try to wear some cologne. This can be something that improves your life. Just because it's your Trickster function does not mean it does not matter. SE is very important in the world. So you need to realize it's something you're not very good at, and you need to try to improve it if at all possible. And finally, SI, no regard for safety or needing a good experience. They're more concerned about giving off a good experience. Also, along with that, they're going to have terrible memories. They're not going to be able to remember anything. If you're with somebody that has SI really low in their stack, you're going to have to try to remember things for them. Help them set reminders. Don't worry about giving them a good experience. They're going to be more worried about giving you a good experience. So honestly, for INTPs, that's not going to be a bad thing. That's actually might be a good thing. So again, just in summary, knowing somebody's Trickster or Demon function, you can know what to avoid. You can know what to never ask them, never tell them. So this is just another piece to the puzzle of attracting somebody, getting somebody in a relationship, what have you. Alright, so now that we've covered all that information, I just want to give a couple quick examples on how to attract somebody, how to possibly build a relationship with somebody, knowing their MBTI type. Like I said, knowing their cognitive function stack, you know all kinds of information about them. So I got two examples here. I got the ESTJ and I also got the ENFJ. The things that they will appreciate and the things they will not appreciate. ESTJ, they have TE heroes, so they're really going to appreciate high TI. So it might be easier to get into a longer term relationship with an ESTJ for an INTP because of this TE hero. They got a lot of other problems, a lot of other things going on with them, but as far as the TE, that's really going to match you very well. Very good at getting things done. Going to be very good workers. Corporations are going to love ESTJs working for them. So that's TE hero in a nutshell. SI parent, they're going to like to be comfortable. They're going to take in the good experience rather than give it to you. They're going to have decent memories. They're not going to forget too much. So always remember, SI parent, they do have a need for comfort. So that could be a good thing also for the INTP. You can be comfortable together. NE child, they like to think of all the possibilities. They like to give off ideas, but they're not concerned with making the decision of what to do. So somebody with an NE child, what do we say? Tell them what you want. They're going to help you make that happen. FI and fear, be very careful with this. ESTJs think they are bad people. They think they shouldn't feel good about themselves. Try to make them feel good. Try to let them know that their FI isn't that bad. Nemesis, they don't enjoy doing this, so they not enjoy, coming up with the thinking. They want somebody else to do that. A TI hero, for example. So don't really ask them what they think. While they do maybe enjoy that, or not enjoy it, but maybe they are pretty good at it, they're still going to hate doing it, so don't expect much from them. SE critic, they're going to be shallow people. If you're not looking very good, they're going to criticize you. They're going to try to look good themselves. They're going to try to get in the gym because they're worried about other people criticizing them possibly. SE critic, make sure you're looking decent. Make sure your haircut looks fine. Whatever. NI Trickster, again, no idea what they want. Never ask an never ask an ESTJ what they want because you're just going to get a blank stare. They don't know. FE Demon, they don't care how you feel. All they care about is how they feel crappy about themselves. Do not tell an ESTJ how you are feeling about something because they do not care. So as an example, if you're trying to get into a relationship with an ESTJ, what can you do? So remember the axis that we talked about, TE with FI. So you could say, I think, emulating TI, I think you are a good person, FI. So you're making their hearer feel good by using I think statements, and you're making them feel good that you think they're a good person, giving off that FE energy. SI and E, so like I said, they want to be comfortable. They want to know what you want. They don't care about what they want. So if you're always telling them what you want, never asking them what they want, they're going to automatically get the SI on board. SI parent, you want to try to make them comfortable, realize that they need some downtime in between doing all their TE stuff. So always try to, make them comfortable, get them some ice cream while they're watching TV, go get them something to eat. They're really going to appreciate that with their SI parent. Never ask them what they want, like I said. Make sure you're looking decent. Never tell them how you feel. Don't really expect too much in the thinking department, even though they're pretty good at it. This is the way you could get an ESTJ to like you. Like I said, starting off with the child function. I want to take you on a date. I want to take you here. I want to, go get drinks with you, whatever. They're going to appreciate that, and because they're not going to have to use their NI, which is terribly developed. ENFJ, so this is a very different person than the ESTJ. They got FE hero, so very good with people. Love to make people feel good. They're going to be very popular people. People is always going to be say hi, such and such, how you doing? NI parent, they know what they want in life. They're not concerned with what you want. They only want to get what they want. SE child, they like to give off the good experience. They appreciate people, liking their experience, telling them how good they're looking. TI and fear, be careful with this. They don't like to feel like they're dumb. They think they are dumb. They think they are not very smart. So if you're making that worse, if you're calling them stupid, calling them dumb, you could possibly, get them in that demon mode, opening up the superego. So just tell them that you don't think they're dumb. You think they're actually smarter than they think they are. FI Nemesis, well, they have a good understanding about how they feel. They don't like doing that. They're more concerned with how other people feel. So you need to be telling them more how you feel instead of asking them how they feel. Any critic, we talked about this a lot, going to be very skeptical of you. They're going to be very skeptical of what you're trying to get out of them. What are your intentions, really? Why are you acting like this? Why are you saying these things? What are you doing? They're not going to have, they're going to criticize you for trying to get something out of them or not being honest. So be very careful with that. They may push you away. They may test you and see if you come back. That's what any critic's about. SI Trickster, they don't care if you're giving off a good experience. They don't care if you're dressed too well. They're still going to like you. If you just go to the party with them, you don't have to be the life of the party. They want to be the life of the party with their SE child. So, they're also going to have terrible memories. If you're in a relationship with an ENFJ, you're going to have to remember things for them. Help them set alarms. SI, they just don't have good memories. TE Demon, they're not going to be getting things done very well. They're not going to be cleaning the house very often. So just don't expect too much from the TE. So as an example, how can we use the axis once again? FE with TI. I feel, which is emulating FI, I feel that you are smarter than you think you are, TI. I feel statements is what the ENFJ is looking for. NI with SE. We can do whatever you want. Here's some ideas. What do you think is the best idea? SE child, like I talked about, just stare at them. Just let them know that they are looking good. They're really going to appreciate that. You might think that's creepy. You might think that's weird. But for somebody like an ENFJ who has SE child, they're really going to appreciate you taking in their experience and enjoying it, emulating SI child. And fear, like I said, and we've talked about all these, never make them feel like they're dumb. Never make them feel like they're stupid. That's going to be bad news. Don't worry about giving them a good experience. Be careful with this indie critic. There's not too much you can do with this. You just have to be careful. If they push you away, try to come back. And once again, just don't expect too much from this TE. They're really not going to appreciate your TI too much, to be honest. They're not going to put your thoughts into action. So don't expect too much from that. So wrapping up here in summary, understanding what a person appreciates and what they do not can help you build better relationships and attract others. Knowing their MBTI type, knowing their cognitive function stack, you know exactly what they're looking for, you know what behaviors they like, behaviors they do not like. And with this information, as TI heroes like the INTP, we can improve ourselves. We can use this information to our advantage. We are not blessed with a high FE. We're not blessed with a high SE, being in the moment. So this is the stuff that we have to do. We have to take in information, think about it, and use it to our benefit. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. This is not the end-all, be-all on building a relationship. Other things matter as well. Simply being nice to them, simply not being a jerk. These are things that matter. But it's still going to give you an edge over everybody else that doesn't know this stuff. So I would encourage you to use this information. We are honestly not the best socially, so any information that we can get on how to be better socially is going to help us, in my opinion. And finally, always remember, guys, that people are the way they are because of how they're built. You cannot criticize other people for, let's say, having low FE, not caring about your feelings. SE critic, criticizing other people's appearance. Those aren't good things. We hate those. But honestly, that's just how they're built. It's not their fault. So we need to just learn to accept people as they are. It really helps us understand why people do the things they do. And I believe this is just a good thing all around to know. Well, that's all I have for today, guys. I want to thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful or informative, please like it. That does help the YouTube algorithm. If you want to see more information like this, more videos, please subscribe to the channel. I try to get a video out every couple weeks at least. For those of you who might be interested in a Discord channel for INTPs, or really anybody, you don't have to be an INTP to join this. I would really appreciate anybody else coming in, especially ENTJs, INTJs, anybody. I would appreciate anybody joining this Discord. I will make sure to make this Discord before my next video comes out. So be on the lookout on this channel for any announcements, or you can always email me. I always leave my email in the description. If you want to join the Discord, just let me know. I will send you an invite. Also, please comment below with any questions or disagreements. Maybe something in this video I said was not correct, so I'd love to hear all of that. Also, guys, I appreciate the kind comments saying how these videos help you. So thank you to everyone that leaves those. I really do appreciate it. And with all that being said, hope you guys have a great day, and thanks again for watching.